Here is my conclusion. Number one, human suffering is real. Human suffering is real. Sickness, death, bad things do happen, even to the child of God. It's real. And there are some sicknesses that there are no cures for them immediately. And some of them will cause death. And so we cannot deny the reality of human suffering in life, in human life. And we said that the primary cause of human suffering, I say primary, is sin. Without sin, there would have been no suffering. There is, however, personal sin in which personal decisions and actions can lead to some people suffering. For example, HIV and AIDS, being killed by drunken drivers, and so on. The varied causes of human suffering should warn us not to jump to conclusions about their specific causes. So, as we face the reality of that, here is a problem. We have these dots here and there. I mean, suffering, premature death, miscarriage, and all those things. How to link, the various dots is the problem. The African has come up with a way in which he is able to draw the line and put those dots, but it's not as easy. The West also has struggled with that and brought about, but the primary cause is sin. And I think that the church and even Christians, we have not really dealt with the issue of the reality of sin. Yes, suffering is real, but what about sin? Not just in terms of personal sins, but in terms of physical evils, in terms of the choices that we make, is real and also got there. Since there are many causes of human suffering, it is dangerous to link it to persons who have the ability to supernaturally cause suffering, pain, and death. That there are people who can secretly cause human suffering clearly goes beyond the teaching of Scripture and portrays more of a worldview that is not biblically based. Witchcraft is dealing about secret causes. If there are secret causes, they are the ones secretly causing harm and problems. Because the witch, you may be able to identify him, but it's very, very difficult to link him to it. As I said, in Nigeria, we said the witch coughed last night and a child died in the morning. So the witch must have killed the child. The believer's response and attitudes towards witchcraft beliefs and accusations should be guided by the following recommendations. Number one, accused witches are human beings. People that are accused of witchcraft, they are still human beings. The adage which says that giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it makes absolute sense in the treatment of so-called witches. The community, the Sangoma, the witch doctor needs only to point an accusing finger, and you are finished. If the community comes together and says, you are the witch, you are the one that has been causing all the problems, you are dead. There's no way you can justify yourself. How can you justify yourself when the entire community says you are a witch or you are responsible for causing all the problems? We should desist from calling them witches. They are human beings. When they called my grandfather a witch, he had a name. He was a human being. He was a husband. He was a father. He was a human being. And people that are accused of being witches, they are human beings. And those innocent children, they are children with flesh and blood. They have emotions. And so, to me, when we went to Togo to talk about child witch accusation, we said we must deliberately not refer to those children as witches. We need to call them by their name: Sam, Mary, Jacob, Isaac. Yeah, they are human beings. And when that old woman was sent away from her home, I said she was not a witch. She had a name. And so when we deal with people with their names, we treat them better. They were born by fathers and mothers and raised like the rest of us. They ate, they drank, they grew, they went to school, married, had children, just as the ordinary human beings. They have blood and emotions, feelings, hopes, aspirations. They are children of God because each and every person that has been called a witch was created in the image of God. And when I call somebody that is created in the image of God a witch, I'm not really understanding the seriousness of when it says that this human being is created in the image of God. Their lives are sacred and must not be treated lightly. When we talk about the sanctity of life, we're saying that all people are created in the image of God. Even the old woman that has dementia, the old man who is sick, or even the person that has HIV and AIDS and is struggling, and the woman that has lost all her children is still a human being, created in the image of God. Widows and orphans have a central place in God's heart. This is expressed in many passages in the Bible where God singles them out for special protection. To maltreat this group of people, orphans and widows, will attract the anger of the Lord. And the way we treat widows and orphans, I fear for the church, because God is the defender of the fatherless, the widows and the poor. Not only are they special before God, God himself has chosen to be their defender, and anyone who maltreats or persecutes them has God to contend with. It's a terrible thing to have God to contend with, right? That the widows, and in Africa we have so many widows and orphans because of war, disease, and lots of things. We have so many widows in our community. And God says he is their defender. And to maltreat them will be to stand on the other side, fighting against God. So maltreating widows, orphan children, and the vulnerable is contrary to the will of God and attract God's judgment. Any oppression, injustice, or evil meted out to the vulnerable invites God's judgment and displeasure. Accusing a child, an orphan, a widow, and the elderly of witchcraft is an act that will not go unnoticed and unpunished. And therefore we have to stay away from persecuting them or accusing them. In Job 22 verse 9 it says explicitly that not feeding the widows and twisting the arms of the fatherless will bring about overwhelming snares, terrors, darkness, and floods. Compassion and justice bring God's favor and reward. Many good examples exist. King Solomon with the two women with a dead child, and many other examples. Elisha provided for the widow in debt, and Jesus loved the little children and blessed them. So for me, it's clear. That accusing children as witches should be out, because Jesus loved little children, and we should love them instead of calling them that they are witches. It's wrong. And we should care and love them. Even identifying with those falsely accused will receive eternal reward. In Matthew 25, verse 35 to 40, describes through a very powerful imagery the commendation that await those who cared for the sick, fed the hungry and thirsty, visited people in prison, and those falsely accused, tormented, violated, beaten, and even murdered. Jesus said, "Truly I say to you, as you did to one of the least of these, my brothers, you did it to me," taking care of them. The United Nations has designated witchcraft belief and accusation as being very harmful because it targets and commits many atrocities against vulnerable and innocent people. The international community and many governments like Nigeria, they have put laws there to protect those falsely accused of witchcraft, and the church cannot do less. Finally, it should be stressed once again that safe havens or sanctuaries should be established to provide shelter, protection, and vocational skills to those who are accused, molested, and forcibly ejected from their homes and families. We can do that. Missions did that. I don't know what SATs can do that to promote it. But I think it's something that the Lord has laid in my heart, and others who have read my manuscript, that we need to do something for the vulnerable amongst us. It's unchristian to abuse these people emotionally, physically. We need to stop that. And I thank God that SATs is going to do something to create an awareness and in people, especially those who have been trained for the ministry, to see that we combat this evil in our continent, in our society, and where we are. Thank you very much, Sats. Thank you.